us. Justin is one of our strategic partners, so this is all about how we collaborate, and he's going to walk through a session on enforcing Zero Trust, which is very close to our hearts. So, Justin, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Do I have a slide there? There we go. Beautiful. Hi all, I'm Justin. I'm the Technical Director for Skybox Security in South Africa. I've been in the industry since about 2000. Quite a few of you will recognize me. Those who don't, I look forward to meeting you all in the future. Today, I'm going to try and make my presentation as concise as possible. There is a lot of content when we're talking about Zero Trust environments, and there's lots of many mechanisms as well as advantages around Forrester's methodologies. So what is a Zero Trust infrastructure? Essentially, it's an infrastructure where you don't trust anyone. You're dealing with a lot of micro-segmentation. It steps away from IP-based rules and tries to build rule bases around users, around infrastructure, a lot of silos, that sort of thing. So essentially we are not trusting anyone inside the environment. And I'll give you a few reasons why we would want to implement this. So the first thing is that it gives us visibility. Visibility, when we've got our silos, we start understanding our compliance environments. We start understanding things like, if we're separating things like the PCI environments, we can start monitoring those environments in particular. It stops the malware propagation, so we're very worried about east-west traffic flow, especially now that we're integrating your IT infrastructures, on-prem, OT networks. We're talking about your private cloud, we're talking about your public cloud infrastructures. Very often, if those networks are not segmented, you can have that east-west propagation of malware and trojans across the environments. I'll get into a little bit more detail just now. Reduces the capital expenditures. We've already touched on that, so I'm not going to get into detail with it. Compliance is absolutely important. One thing that we've got to eliminate is the finger pointing. So we all know within these enterprise organizations, we've got these security teams and they're constantly making changes, 30, 40 changes per week, some guys 100 changes per week, even more, with these rule bases that are 3,000 rules long. How do we keep compliance within our organizations? These are some of the challenges that we're trying to address. Have any of you read this book? It is brilliant. It is very scary. I would highly recommend it. It shows a lot of insights into the current threats that are actually happening today. A lot of detailed GPS attacks, all that sort of thing. So not only enterprise, but also how it's affecting us as individuals. One thing that he talks about, Mark Goodman, is he talks about how so many people are accessing work resources, but on unauthorized methods using things like your cell phone. What this goes to show is that the perimeter of our organizations is now skewed. The perimeter is gone. So everyone is essentially untrusted. We have to have methodologies to access our information that is more secure. Encryption, two-factor authentication. And then we have to go on to who is Skybox and what do we do. Essentially, we are like a big data analytics engine where we're taking through all the information from across 120 vendors, solutions, platforms. We're feeding all this information into one central place. We're parsing it, normalizing the information, and giving you threat information and network assurance information that is relevant particularly to your organization. It doesn't really help us at the moment if we just know what all the threats are that exist in the world, or even all the threats that exist inside our organization if we don't have context. So we give you context into your environment. Alright, so how does Palo Alto integrate with Skybox? The first way is we look at your next-gen rule bases. Things like your application control, things like your being able to work with user awareness and identifying what users are actually doing. We start understanding how compliant your environment is. So what this matrix shows is if certain environments need to connect into each other, how compliant are all those microsegments. So this would be from a live dashboard, essentially showing you things like, according to policy, how compliant are we? How many vulnerabilities have we actually seen in these environments? What this example shows you is that there is no segmentation in the OT network. Most of the commercial, most of the corporate network is taken care of, but the OT network is completely exposed. There is zero protection, zero policies, and full access with lots of vulnerabilities. At least we have visibility, at least we can do something about it. So that would have gone across your entire spectrum of your entire infrastructure. The next thing that we look at, a way that we supplement Palo Alto, is starting to understand our IPS a lot better. So if we have got a multi-tiered environment, and we've got something like a web server or a SQL server that's essentially sitting, it's the back-end server or the front-end server that has got physical access from someone on the internet. There are lots of ways in which you can stop those vulnerabilities against that particular web server, right? Some of them may be patching physically on the device itself or on the virtual environment, but otherwise you've got IPS happening in maybe 3 layers in your organization before the traffic even hits that back-end server, right? So we've got to understand where is the best place for us to mitigate this risk. So we assist you in understanding that network flow and that traffic and mitigating that risk in a place that makes total sense. It's quite a mission if you want to patch 30 web servers, but if you have got the IPS protections, doing the virtual patching pretty much at the perimeter or ether-bound traffic inside your core, that would be a better protection mechanism. The third way is we look at compliance. Now, all of our businesses rely on compliance. We can't actually do business without compliance. Compliance, we're talking about regulation. We're also talking about best practices. So best practices that we want to bring into the organization. So compliances that are regulatory are things like the HIPAA compliance, when you're talking about healthcare, PCI compliance, when you're talking about dealing with finances. But then what about our own best practices inside our organization? What about things like NIST, ISO 27001, 27002? What about the SANS top 20 best practices? How can we actually monitor our entire environment across our massive infrastructure that's spread? This is an easy way to do it. It gives us live compliance reports. It also gives us remediation on how we can improve our compliance. So with compliance, it's not only applying to the business development managers, but it's also governance, risk, and compliance are some of the major drivers of financing when it comes to your security spend. So by providing these dashboards, it makes them very happy. They give us the funds. It makes us nerds on the ground very happy because we're able to do our work and our administration as effectively as possible. The next thing that we've got a very good grasp on is the whole change management process. So this works in a few different methods. I'll give you one example. So we've got a change. Our company is releasing a new piece of software tomorrow, and the organization is dictating that we have to give really, really permissive rules to our front end, which we don't feel safe with. So what we can do is we can follow a change process. The first thing is we've got the ticketing system that shows the request. Because we normalize all the data, we can simply have people connecting into the system and stating, I want this particular source to connect to this particular destination on this particular port. We are able to check all your different firewalls. So now we identify, with using a network map, we identify where these rules are actually allowing the traffic or stopping the traffic, both in visual as well as in a text contextualization, making our lives easy. I mean, if you have to think about the engineer on the ground, sometimes it can take 3 to 4 days to investigate a complex infrastructure to try and understand what the flow of traffic is going to be like, especially now that we're moving to the cloud, which is being managed by shadow IT and DevOps and not traditional security guys, right? We look at the risk assessment. So I was explaining to you previously how with IPS, we would find the best point for you to implement that security control to get the most cover of your vulnerabilities. We look at the best way to implement the rules. So once those rules have been authorized by the various business asset owners or the risk managers of that particular infrastructure, say the web guys or the guys who look after the payroll systems, we can send those change control requests to the particular individuals who look after that particular infrastructure. That's really handy when we're talking about these enterprise organizations and we're going cross-vendor, we're going cross-managed service provider, right? So we've got to try, find quickly the best person to make the changes. The final thing that we do is we verify the changes. So we see, is this rule implemented according to what the risk has authorized? So very simply we do that because we take all the rule bases from the multiple gateways across the multiple infrastructures, we normalize it into plain text, and we can simply do a differential on the text to see, have they actually implemented TCP 21 for FTP, particularly to that server. Are you all with me so far? Alright. The next advantage and the next way that we couple with Palo Alto is starting to understand the process flow and the workflow of information. So over here in this example at the top, what we're saying is we're saying that people on the internet need to get to a specific Amazon Web Services development server. That shows the complexity of our network. Most of us don't even have network diagrams. Only 2 or 3 people inside our organization start understanding the traffic flow. So this gives the ability for the networking team, the security team to work together to start understanding how the traffic should flow. It also reduces the complexity. So in this example, you'll see that that gateway in the top is actually the gateway that is blocking this traffic. What that means is that to implement this change, we don't need to make changes to any of that infrastructure. We purely need to make the change on that security gateway, right? There again, reducing a huge amount of time. And a single example, so this would come from a little bit of experience. If we were told as security guys that we need to make a change, we have gone through the whole risk process, we've gone through the whole change control process, asking router teams and networking teams to be available on a Saturday night at 3 o'clock in the morning. And then we get onto that firewall and we pick up, oh, this rule doesn't actually need to be changed. How much resource, how much time, how much money are you actually wasting? So this would give us that single rule that needs to be implemented. Everything else, that flow of traffic is green, is good to go. No changes are necessary. Next thing that we've got is we've got an understanding of how the threats actually work. So what this goes through is we pick up a new vulnerability sitting on a web server and we have to find the best way to mitigate that risk. It's potentially not with a patch. It's potentially not even with an IPS signature. It could just be blocking a malicious port coming through the firewall. So you've got an IIS server, you don't want RDP version 8 coming from any IP address to go to that. So we pick up the vulnerability and we give you multiple options to remediate that. The next way that we work with Palo Alto, as well as other vendors, is we plug into a whole bunch of technologies with various kinds of mechanisms. So what are these technologies? We can look at the vulnerability occurrence data. So these are your network vulnerability scanners that we're picking up. those guys are picking up a lot of threats. They're picking up software that you're running, what vulnerabilities are associated with that software. But it's not really giving you context. It's not really telling you, this is inside my lab environment, I don't need to really take care of this. This is a vulnerability that we picked up on a guest's cell phone who sits on an isolated network and doesn't have access to anything inside our environment. Why do we need to worry about trying to track down this critical vulnerability? We start giving a lot of context. So we say it belongs to this business unit. So it is marked as critical. So even if it is a medium risk, it's still considered critical. So we plug into the vulnerability scanners. We plug into multiple infrastructures. I've talked before about how we plug into IT, OT, on-prem, private and public cloud infrastructures. This is where everybody's going. We've got to play with this. The next is your asset repositories. So if we want to understand the vulnerabilities on your nodes, on all your endpoints, we're not going to go and install another agent onto your endpoint. The endpoints already have a fortune of endpoint security and endpoint software. The machines are bloated. We can have an i7 of 32 gigs of RAM. It can be running slowly. So the way that we pull that information is we will pull the asset information from your other repositories, from your other asset databases, from things like your, even something like your WSUS, we'll pull that data. And then we also pull information from various threat intelligence feeds. Internal, external, many manufacturers pull information from the same places. We pull that information and more information, and we really correlate that information so that it's meaningful to you as the customer. What does all of this bring together, the single platform? So the blind spot discovery, we start understanding where your policies are set up incorrectly. We're talking about gateway policies. We're also talking about the gateways themselves. Is the hardware or the operating systems compliant? Right? We talk about vulnerability assessments, understanding all the layer 2, all the layer 3 devices on your network, getting a really good gauge with meaningful, actionable, relevant, and timeliest reports that assist us in doing our work accurately and very, very quickly. Okay, always current network maps. You guys, not a single one of you, have got network maps that are accurate. So these are dynamic network maps that are pulled with live information. So we will SSH into your router. We will pull those routes. We will draw this map up based on your actual routing, based on your firewall rule bases. This is also with intelligent routing. It's not only static routes. Global attack visibility, end-to-end path analysis we've been through, and accurate remediation priorities. I've explained that to you. So with Zero Trust, how else can we assist? So we know that we can plug in with Palo Alto and with a lot of other third parties. But we give you analytics that you really can use. Very, very simply, something like this is a great visibility for C-level people to understand the sort of threats inside their organization without getting into too much detail. It shows us, is this exploit available for our current infrastructure? Is it an exploit that's just available in the wild but has never actually been implemented? We've never actually seen it happening. And is it an existing exploit that we don't need to manage because of where this piece of hardware or software is sitting inside our infrastructure? Next thing that we really, really help with, this is absolutely massive when we're talking about gateways. So we're talking about rule optimization and cleanup, which is a massive, massive issue inside all of our organizations, especially when we're talking enterprise. So if we're talking enterprise, we're talking about 10 to 150 gateways. We're talking about people across the world, these global organizations, many people making changes, multiple administrators. We don't understand all these rule changes that are happening. People are in a rush to get things done for business, right? Especially when we're talking about like how the DevOps guys want to move at lightning fast speeds, yet the security guys themselves are more static in their approach. so by having rule-based optimization, we can assist the engineers in understanding what they need to prioritize in terms of rule-based cleanup. And I'll give you some simple examples. If we're talking about things like shadow rules, if we're talking about things like redundant rules, these are rules that perhaps are a little bit too permissive inside the rule base. We really want to tighten those rules up. We also want to look at things like our NIST and our best practices, and we want to make sure that we don't have any rules or any rules sitting on our gateways. I mean, that gets rid of a whole bunch of compliance. No one will want to do business with us. It's up to us to protect our own IP as well as our customer information. So we help you with the process of your rule cleanup, your rule optimization. That's absolutely critical. We also, okay, so we'll jump onto that. If you guys want to talk to me about rule optimization, I've seen a lot of organizations are currently going through this process at the moment. We can definitely guide you through that, and we've got a lot of best practices. The next thing that we deal with is change management and orchestration. So we don't only take information in from the scenes, from the syslogs, from the gateway logs, from the scanners. We're also able to write back into the various systems. So for instance, with the change management process, if we've got authorization to make a change from the various risk owners of these environments, why can't we just get those changes implemented really, really quickly and automate that entire process? This is very important when we're talking about shadow IT needing to implement their infrastructures, as well as, it looks like my time is up, so I'm going to finish this up. So automation is important. So you've got like someone like Shadow IT, they spin up web servers. We want security to be attached straight to those web servers as soon as they are spun up. Because someone like a DevOps guy, he's going to go and he's going to spin up a virtual environment. He's going to take live customer information, put that onto the environment. We don't know how he has segmented that network. We don't know if he has given an elastic IP address with all traffic allowing to go into that server that he hasn't changed the password for, and it's not the default password. We need to control Shadow IT. We do need automation. It plays a big role in many things that we do. Skybox integrates with over 120 different technology partners. And just to reiterate, how does Skybox work with Palo Alto? So the first thing is, we understand all your next-gen rules, and we can give you compliance against it. We've got your IPS signature management, so we have got a really good idea of what is active, what is in detect, what is in prevent, and where these security policies actually live. We've got the complete change tracking, so we're able to understand that Bob made a change. Because of the differentials, we understand that he has edited that TCP 443 object, HTTPS, and he said, give it from port 1 to 64,000. You wouldn't be able to pick up these sorts of changes without a tool like this. Okay? And the platform configuration checks is absolutely important. So we're not only looking at the rule-based policy, but we're looking at the operating systems underlying of all those security tools to ensure that those are compliant. And that is it. If any of you would like to chat a little bit more about Skybox, please feel free to come and chat to me at our booth. Thank you very much.
We have a chair on the panel. The last session was there before we get some lunch. But everyone's hungry, they probably want to go see some more of Skybox and our other partners. But if the rest of my panel colleagues, Andre, Justin, Steve,